Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of Briarpatch, a great series premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode. I should also note, I don't know how to, what the wording would be. It's a weird reference to make. I get this Twin Peaks vibe from this show. I don't know what it is. I didn't know. I'm going into the show. I wasn't sure what to expect. I know it'd be kind of like potentially kind of a whodunit kind of murder mystery. But even then, it's like obviously we gotten introduced to kind of an eccentric cast. But beyond that, it's just kind of like it's like I don't know. I don't know how to really phrase it. There's just something about this show that kind of gets Twin Peaks ish. In particular, part of me wondering is that because the actor who plays the chief is actually the actor who played Hank in Twin Peaks. I don't know if that correlates, but it's just small town full of eccentric characters. I don't know. But obviously, just going into this, I already knew the premise of Rosario Dawson's character Allegra is in town, which I know, awesome to see Rosario Dawson. I'm Rosario Dawson. The fact of the matter is, she is here to investigate her sister Felicity's murder. I didn't know her sister was going to be a cop and everything, which I thought the whole situation was interesting. At the beginning, I was like, "Aren't you a cop? What's up with this whole land?" Maybe that's supposed to be the talk of the town. Or "Oh, the landlord. What are you here for? The rent?" I'm like. Not unless it's well, if you don't pay your bills up front and eventually a cops will show to kind of kick you out type of thing. I don't think, maybe, I don't know. Or was that supposed to be I don't know. Maybe I'm just being stupid and ignorant, but I'm just maybe that was just kind of the slang of the town of oh, the landlord here, the landlady's here. So that's why I'm I don't know what to make of that, but regardless. Obviously, Felicity's in town. First person she really gets to meet is AD. Interesting enough, he's the actor who played Solomon in Blacklist and obviously the short-lived Blacklist Redemption. So that was kind of interesting. Obviously, USA and NBC connection, yet again, kind of had bit of that last episode too. So it's just kind of, not last episode, but obviously with the center, regardless, tangents and stuff like that. But yeah. It turns out he was her attorney and Felicity's attorney and everything. And he also brings up the fact of the matter is there was a will. Well, there was some stuff an insurance policy that life insurance policy that Felicity had basically set up 3 weeks ago, and it leaves 1.7 mil to Allegra, which is Allegra's that doesn't make any sense. How would you get a policy like that set up? Just you're young, and the fact of the matter is you have no dependents. So it's okay. Then also her place, the amount that it costs, is that doesn't make any sense on a cop's salary. So, because I think this is actually a really interesting thing too. Granted, we don't know how much necessary time has actually passed between Allegra showing up in town and her sister's death. You never know, how, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think they've made it perfectly clear that the time frame and stuff like that. But I think it's kind of an interesting element to this. I'm going to be skipping around, but Allegra kind of held it together most of the episode, kind of because obviously she's here to inquire about what happened to my sister, and the fact of the matter is she's cool, calm, and collected, and asking questions you wouldn't expect her to ask of who did it. Why? Obviously, those are questions no one knows, but also it's how much money did my sister make? And then even throwing out there, was my sister, okay, I'm going to ask the question we're not asking. How long was my sister on a take? Kind of being is my sister dirty? Because it's there's no reasonable reason she should be able to have the amount of money and be able to afford a place that she afforded that it's yeah. But then Gene immediately is yo, slow your roll. The fact is, and this was shitty of him, especially because for one, it's her birthday. Two, the fact of the matter is that this is her sister that just died. But for him, he took it's no, you don't get to besmirch Felicity's name. She worked hard. She was a good cop. We were even, we were going to get married after my divorce was finalized. And it's wait, what? And Gene's oh, she didn't tell you about that? It's no. Which kind of furthers the thing of maybe, Allegra didn't know her sister as well as she thought she did. But then there's a scene later on where it turns out okay, so the fact of the matter is she knew enough about her sister to recognize okay, so this place isn't my sister's place. She reads books, a whole bunch of magazines. There's that certain thing she was referencing. My sister puts it on everything. The place does not smell like it at all. My sister isn't the type to put up pictures. This wasn't my sister's place. This place was kind of set up to make it seem that's where she lived. But I guess it was kind of I guess it's meant to be because like the way the chief kind of puts it, like it was meant to keep her life safe. It's like, but basically, if you were smart, you'd basically go through life being afraid of everything, just because it just, I guess because you never quite know where things are going to strike, and then like almost like the thought of like what a policeman's supposed to represent, like kind of give you almost like this falsehood of security, like that could protect you, but it's like. The way Allegra talked about it, she's like, my sister believed in it being more than just that there was more to it, just being a pretense of like, what, like, because the way the chief was, he was kind of looking at it from like a very like cynical point of view, just kind of like, yeah, we give you that pretense of like, oh, you're safe and you're fine, but truth be told, you're not type of situation. So I just thought that was interesting. But I would assume like someone is after, because Allegra pieces it together because she ends up talking to that dude who's with the news, newspaper man in particular, Freddie. She was talking to him about stuff. I even love that weird moment where like the dude that was serving him was like, oh, let me know if you need anything, Miss Dillon. She's like, thanks. And he's like, why do they treat you like you're the white man in this situation? I just thought that was an interesting thing, because it's just kind of like, oh, I get ignored, but you get all the treatment. I just thought that was kind of like, I don't know, obviously just an inverse of their situation, but I just thought that was an interesting bit of dialogue. I was like, that's interesting. But the fact of the matter is, there's a whole thing about like, Freddie throws out his thoughts of like, well, whoever killed her had to be someone rich and powerful. And obviously they must have hired someone, because that bomb wasn't some amateur job. It was a professional. So whoever it was, Felicity threatened potentially them continuing to be rich. So they hired someone to get rid of her. So that's that current thought process. But also at the same time, like Allegra's got, like there's so much going on too, because Allegra, apparently she's kind of like an investigator for a senator. And then, like, the senator basically has his dude Cyrus come to town to be like, yo, it's like, oh, yeah, you're grieving and stuff like that about your sister. Yeah. But while you're in town, can you look into this Spivvy guy? And I'm like, that's a little shitty. Give her some damn time. Like, her sister just died. She even said that. Like, it's like, fine, I'll look into it. It turns out, like, which obviously... it's another reason why this is happening, because it's like, well, Spivvy's in town, but also him and Allegra. Well, we'll just go by Jacob, but Jacob and Allegra have history. There was a past there. The ins and outs we are not fully know, because obviously you can tell, you get the inkling like, oh yeah, like Jacob's part of like something criminal, just like the place, including the giraffes and everything. I even love that little line of like, oh yeah, you know me, I'm into tall ladies. And then you made that whole reference of like, oh, are you still into being handcuffed? Which I'm like, yeah, we saw that whole kinky scene between her and the senator. Which, side note, I've seen that actor in plenty of things. I'm trying to remember what, like, there's one thing I feel like in particular I know him from, but I just don't remember what. But I've definitely seen him in stuff. It's almost in the back of my mind. It's almost the tip of my tongue, but I can't quite grasp what it is. But it's there. I just can't remember. But regardless... But it seems like obviously like there's an affair situation going on between Allegra and the senator, and also like some like super rough kinky sex, because she slaps him, he slaps her, and she punches him, and he was like, we promised open hands with this situation. I'm like, and she's got the belt, she's wrapping around her hair. I'm like, oh, this is about to get real freaky, I'm assuming. But nevertheless, it seems like they're after someone named Brattle, which... It seems Jacob is the key to finding Brattle, because it seems like, well, Jacob in particular, it seems like he has worked in government agencies in past, ones that you don't want to mention, which I assume like some CIA type of stuff, like did some stuff that, benefited him in many different shape or forms, and that meant, because obviously he tries to keep it like, he tries to joke about like his connections to Brattle and stuff like that. I haven't thought was that interesting moment of like, all right, so which recording should we use, mine or yours for this deposition? And he's like, what record? It's like, the recording that you have going, like how long did you have it going? He's like, ever since you walked in. So I was like, that's interesting. She also references something from 12 years ago. Now, what that is exactly, whatever it was, it kind of got Jacob quiet. He kind of looked down, so it's like, obviously it was something bad, but what exactly, we don't know. But what this is all necessarily about, because it sounds like Brattle's a criminal and the senator's trying to use this as an opportunity to take him down. Is it for like the purpose of like, oh, this is a really bad guy, we got to remove from the playing field, or is it a situation of like he's competition that needs to be removed from the board, like in a sense that maybe he's running or something? I don't think so, because with the whole conversation it seems like Brattle disappeared. So I'm like, maybe he has, I don't know. I feel like we still don't have the full scope on what this whole Brattle situation is about. I'm very interested to kind of dive into that, though. There's also this other, like, subplot they introduced at the beginning of the episode, where, like, oh yeah, the animals got out of the zoo, and that's kind of what the cops are kind of the most focused on. And obviously we see the whole situation with that deer. And then there's the whole situation with the alligator, because she was, like, you know, eating, and then she looks and sees the alligator being taken away. And then it's like, oh yeah, like, there's this giant plate of food left out near my room that's actually been here longer than I have. And it's like, all right, I'm sorry about that, ma'am. We're kind of understaffed because, what was his name? What was it? Cody got eaten by the tiger. And it's like, wait, what? There's a tiger? They still haven't caught the tiger yet? And it's like, no. And I'm like, that's so weird. Like, what is that subplot? What's that going to turn into? It seems like very important that they kind of reference that, you know? Which, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it makes sense, because literally later on at the end of the episode, we see that tiger popping up and eating said food outside of her room. So I'm like, okay. So I'm wondering, is that tiger just going to be strolling around? Like, is that just going to be a thing throughout the season, where periodically going to see, like, oh yeah, animals rolling around? Like I said, they just, like, it seems like that's a subplot that might turn into something. Maybe not. Maybe it's just supposed to be like a weird, quirky subplot. But I feel like they went out of their way to kind of put so much detail into it. Like, oh, here's this deer. Oh, here's this alligator. Oh, here's this tiger now. Like, what else are we going to come across? You know, we'll have to, you know, wait and see. I also thought it was kind of interesting, the whole focus. I don't know if that's just a stylistic thing, or maybe it was just kind of supposed to be leading up to that tiger thing, but it's like, there's that whole situation with, like, the ants and the bugs. Because obviously when Felicity showed up at Home Dude's house at the beginning of the episode, she was looking down and saw the bugs and stuff like that. Then when Allegra was coming back to her room, she looked down at the plate. It was covered in bugs and stuff like that. I'm like, is that just like a stylistic choice? The fact is, you keep cutting to that makes me think like that's significant. Like I said, maybe it's just circling back to, like, maybe that meant some stuff was kind of laying about. Maybe it's like, well, maybe it's supposed to represent, like, if something happens later on that's connected to the tiger, it's like, maybe it's supposed to, like, make your brain correlate to that. Maybe that meant there was some food laying about for whatever reason, or maybe it's trying to connect those two things. Maybe not. But like I said, maybe it's like a stylistic thing. Maybe I'm overthinking it. But I just feel like you focus on it means it must mean something. I don't know. It was also interesting, too, because I like that line from the chief where it's like they used to have seasons, because now it's just kind of like it's just more of a how hot is it today type of situation. And obviously throughout the episode, you see it constantly fluctuate. So that's why I'm like, it seems almost like everything's meant to be like almost like a character, like in the TV show Stumptown, how Dex's car and her radio is kind of a character in its own. It almost seems like the degrees and how hot it is seem like it's, but maybe it's just kind of like a scene setter. But it also just seems like they focus on that to be important. Maybe it hasn't really revealed how it's going to be. Like I said, it's early episode stuff. I'm always throwing out wild thoughts and just like, oh, is this important? This important? Is not? Is that? You know. So like I said, we'll see. We did learn a little bit about Felicity and Allegra in the sense of like, oh yeah, some people had referenced something about like something like a photo or something. Maybe there was something people were referencing like before your parents' accident or something like that, which I'm assuming because Allegra's there and there's no conversation about their parents, that their parents died. And so I guess it was something when they were still alive. Like what this particular accident was that was kind of being referenced is kind of another thing in itself of like, okay, so what's that about? And then there's that whole situation with the chief being like, all right, I'm going to take you to where your sister actually lived. And they're on the way. And then all of a sudden an AD shows up. And you can even see it on Allegra's face, like, what the hell are you doing here? Just, even I was like, this is a little weird for you just to be popping up like that. And then he's just kind of like, oh man, maybe we should go get some ice cream or something. And it's like, what? I'm like, he knows something. Like, what the hell is this about? It seems so weird. And then I love him he's speaking to her in French. I'm like, oh, he's trying to tell her something. And she's like, what? Legitimately, it made me bust out laughing because I was like, oh, she doesn't understand what the hell you're saying. Because they made a point of like, oh yeah, he took French just in case it came into play, and he keeps saying stuff, and Chief is like, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'm fine. And he says it again, and she's like, all right, we'll go check later, Chief. The thing is, my question is, why, like, obviously you care about Allegra, because obviously he was good friends with Felicity, but the fact of the matter is, why not warn her? So it must mean that the chief must not have been a good guy for you to know ahead of time, like you knew something was going down. But my mind immediately went one of two things. One, The fact is, he wasn't the reason why he didn't bring the chief along. Because I was about to say, yeah, like, did you know that he was a bad guy and you knew the car was about to explode? I don't think it's that. I think that's there in my head, but more so I'm thinking like, because it made me think like him rolling up. Oh, the chief is about to pop you. That's what it seemed like it was going to be. Like he was like, don't go with this guy. He's dangerous. You will get killed. Like maybe it's like your sister didn't trust him, so I don't trust him, so you shouldn't trust him. Or maybe as an attorney, like he has some idea. I mean, well, because the way he makes it sound like he only handles divorces or something, because he says that like Felicity shot him a few cases because cops kind of apparently get divorced or whatever the most. So, but the fact of the matter is, it's like, it had to be a situation of like he knew that the chief was going to potentially kill her, so he was looking out for her, because it's like, well, it's like, because even he was like, the fact is I represented Felicity, so if you kind of need representation, he was going to be there to help her out, because it's like, this is for, he cares, obviously. They walk away, the chief gets in the car explodes, so it's like, okay. So that's interesting. So I mean, it seems like AD has her best interest at heart, but it's just so interesting. Like I said, it's just, how'd you know to show up then and there? Like, what? I guess, which I can only assume must mean that he's keeping tabs on her, which could be good, which could be bad. But it seems, like I said, setting up that situation, especially when she was in the hospital and she walks out and she's looking at everybody. She sees Glenn, she sees AD, she sees Freddie. It seems kind of like I don't know who to trust in this town, and just like, because obviously, and I brought up earlier, it was like she's been strong this entire episode, just keeping everything bottled up because for her. But I think just all this, literally almost getting blown up, probably a reminder of the fact that your sister dead. Like all of this is happening in a span of so much time, so little time. I should rather say that I think it was just too much for any person to handle, and she kind of broke down from it. So finally lighting up a cigarette at the end of the episode, because it seemed like she's been trying to quit, but nevertheless, I'm curious to see what that kind of all ends up being, because I think she's kind of taking a step back for now, and the next day we're getting right back into this, figuring out what the hell this all is and what the hell it's all about. Like I said earlier, this is early days, so obviously, once again, the first episode, so like I said, I'm just throwing out stuff that's kind of floating through my head. Like, obviously, as the season progresses, obviously, a lot of stuff will kind of like, oh, so this is this, and stuff will start potentially, piecing together, but this is kind of where my head is right now with all of this. We'll ultimately have to wait and see where everything takes us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.